In 1942, a U.S. Army general was taken up in a reconnaissance aircraft, flown over Burbank, California, and asked a simple question. Point out the aircraft factory below. He couldn't find it because there was no factory visible from the air at all. Just this, a quiet, unremarkable suburb, complete with streets, lawns, parked cars, and laundry hanging out to dry. Underneath that entire suburb, workers were building hundreds of American bombers a month. That's not a metaphor. That's an actual, physical, three-dimensional deception built at real scale, and it worked. Today, we're going to take that same engineering logic and the physics underneath modern versions of it and understand exactly how you make a facility disappear from an eye in the sky, whether that eye is a 1940s reconnaissance camera or a modern multispectral satellite. Welcome back to Grand Structures. Every example in this video is historical, declassified, and long since retired, but the physics hasn't changed at all. Before we get to how you defeat aerial surveillance, you need to understand what it's actually looking for, because hiding isn't really the right mental model. An aerial photo interpreter, human or algorithmic, isn't scanning for one obvious giveaway. They're reading a scene for four separate categories of evidence: shape and outline, shadow, pattern and texture, and critically, change over time. Shape is the most obvious one. Does this outline match a known type of structure? Shadow is subtler and, as we'll see in a moment, historically the hardest thing to fake, because a cast shadow reveals the true three-dimensional form of an object, regardless of how its surface is painted. Pattern and texture catch anything too geometrically regular to be natural. Real farmland has irregular field boundaries. A disguised military grid often doesn't. And change over time is arguably the most powerful of the four. A location that looks static and boring in one photo, but subtly different from the last photo taken of the same spot months earlier, draws attention specifically because of that difference, not because of anything visible in a single image alone. Every camouflage technique in this video is, at its core, an attempt to defeat one or more of these four channels. Let's start with the one that took the most raw craftsmanship to fake: shape and shadow together. After Pearl Harbor, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers faced a real and urgent problem. West Coast aircraft factories, producing the bombers America desperately needed, sat completely exposed to potential Japanese aerial attack. The man given the job of hiding them, Colonel John F. Omer, made an unusual hiring decision. He recruited Hollywood. Set designers, art directors, painters, and landscape artists from MGM, Disney, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, Universal, and Warner Brothers were brought in specifically because disguising a building convincingly from the air was fundamentally a problem of practical set design, not military engineering. Here's the first, most obvious layer: massive camouflage netting stretched across wooden scaffolding suspended above the actual factory roof, painted with contrasting colors to suggest streets, rooftops, and lawns from directly overhead. But flat paint on flat netting only fools a photo interpreter looking straight down. The moment the sun is at any angle, which is almost always, flat, painted buildings cast no shadow at all, and a trained interpreter specifically looks for exactly that mismatch: a rooftop that should be casting a shadow onto the street beside it and isn't.
So Omer's team didn't paint three-dimensionality, they built it. Fake trees were constructed from chicken wire frames, coated in adhesive and covered in spray-painted chicken feathers, dyed both green and brown, deliberately uneven to mimic the natural variation of healthy and patchy grass and foliage a real neighborhood would actually have. These weren't flat props. They had real height, real volume, and cast real shadows that shifted naturally across the day exactly the way an actual tree's shadow would. And here's where the engineering gets genuinely clever, tackling that fourth category from part 2: change over time. A perfectly static disguise, cars parked in exactly the same spots every single day, laundry that never moves, is itself a red flag to a patient observer comparing photographs taken weeks apart. Real neighborhoods change constantly in small, boring ways, so workers were assigned to move the inflated rubber cars to different parking spots, and clothing was physically taken on and off real clotheslines strung up behind the fake houses, specifically to give repeated aerial photography a plausible pattern of everyday human activity rather than an unnervingly frozen scene. Boeing's Plant 2 in Seattle used the same underlying logic at a similarly enormous scale. 23 acres of fake streets, sidewalks, fences, and house facades built directly on the factory roof. And it worked precisely because it didn't try to hide the existence of a large structure below. It gave the interpreter a complete, internally consistent, three-dimensional alternative explanation for what that structure was, shadows and all. Visual camouflage solved the problem of what the human eye or a standard camera can see. It does nothing at all against an infrared sensor, which isn't reading reflected light, it's reading radiated heat directly from the object itself. To understand how you defeat that, you need one piece of real physics, the Stefan-Boltzmann law. Every object radiates infrared energy in proportion to two things, its absolute temperature and a property called emissivity, essentially how efficiently a given surface radiates heat compared to a theoretically perfect radiator. Critically, that relationship to temperature isn't linear. It scales with temperature raised to the fourth power, which means even a modest increase in an object's actual surface temperature produces a dramatic increase in how brightly it glows to an infrared sensor. This is exactly why a running engine, a generator, or in our earlier videos, a ventilation exhaust stands out so starkly on thermal imagery. Small temperature differences translate into large radiative differences. That equation gives you exactly two physical levers to pull if you want to reduce a thermal signature: lower the object's actual temperature or lower its emissivity. Real defense research, including published work from Australia's Defense Science and Technology Group, has developed low emissivity paint coatings specifically formulated to reduce infrared radiation from military equipment in the specific wavelength bands infrared sensors are built to detect, while still functioning as ordinary-looking visual camouflage paint on top. The more sophisticated modern approach tackles the temperature side directly, and there's a genuinely striking real example. Researchers at Zhejiang University built a layered composite material, a highly porous insulating aerogel layer combined with an outer radiative layer, and tested it on an object with an internal temperature of 600 degrees Celsius. The insulation layer alone dropped the surface temperature dramatically. The radiative outer layer then re-emitted whatever heat did escape at wavelengths specifically chosen to fall outside the atmosphere's main infrared windows, the specific wavelength bands thermal sensors are built to look through. The final result, an object radiating internally at 600 degrees Celsius, presented an apparent radiative signature of just 37 degrees, close to ordinary background temperature. But here's the honest complication, and it's real physics, not a footnote. Emissivity and reflectivity are directly linked. Reduce a surface's emissivity, and by definition, you increase how much it reflects its surroundings instead. A very low emissivity surface doesn't become thermally invisible. It starts acting more like a mirror, reflecting the temperature of the sky or the ground around it. On a clear night, reflecting a very cold sky can actually make an object look colder than its surroundings, which is its own kind of giveaway. Thermal camouflage isn't a free solution, it's a trade, and a sophisticated observer knows to look for exactly that kind of anomaly.
Now let's look at a completely different kind of camouflage, not disguise, but minimization. During the Cold War, the United States built 1,000 Minuteman missile silos across the northern plains, and the engineering answer here wasn't to hide a large structure, it was to make sure there was almost nothing large to see in the first place. The silo itself sits almost entirely below ground. The only substantial surface feature is a heavy closure door, flat, low and unremarkable from directly overhead, sitting inside a plain gravel platform, surrounded by an ordinary security fence set inside working ranch and farmland that looks, from any reasonable altitude, like exactly what it appears to be. Here's the detail that shows genuinely deliberate engineering thinking about that fourth category from earlier: change over time. The gravel platform inside the fence was regularly treated with herbicide specifically to prevent vegetation from growing on it. That sounds like simple maintenance. It's actually a change detection countermeasure. If the gravel pad were left alone, it would gradually grow patchy grass and weeds at a different rate than the farmland around it, creating a subtly different, evolving texture that repeated aerial photography compared over months or years could pick up on as an anomaly. Keeping it uniformly bare indefinitely removes that entire signal before it can ever develop. The silos were also connected to their control centers entirely through buried cable, rather than any visible above-ground infrastructure, because a network of new roads or power lines connecting a cluster of otherwise unremarkable fields would, by itself, be exactly the kind of geometric pattern a photo interpreter is trained to notice, regardless of how well any individual site was disguised. This is a genuinely different philosophy from the Burbank suburb, and it's worth naming directly. Lockheed's factory needed active, constant, engineered deception because there was an enormous, unmistakable structure that had to be explained away. A Minuteman silo needed almost none of that because the engineering goal from day one was to minimize the structure itself down to something small enough that it barely needed disguising at all. Just consistency, patience, and the discipline to keep a boring scene boring indefinitely across every single future photograph anyone might ever take of it. It's worth being honest about the limits of everything covered so far, because all four categories from Part 2, shape, shadow, pattern, and change, describe how a human eye or an ordinary camera reads a scene. Modern satellite reconnaissance increasingly doesn't rely on visible light at all. We've covered this in earlier videos in this series. Synthetic aperture radar can detect surface deformation invisible to any camera. Thermal sensors, as we just went through in detail, read a completely different physical property than reflected light. Multispectral and hyperspectral imaging can pick up subtle differences in material composition, the actual chemical and physical makeup of paint, netting, or vegetation that are functionally invisible to the human eye, but show up clearly once you're measuring wavelengths outside what we can perceive. A camouflage scheme built entirely around fooling a human eye or standard camera, however brilliantly executed, was never designed to defeat a sensor measuring something that eye was never capable of seeing in the first place. That's not a flaw specific to any one historical example. It's the honest limit of the entire discipline. You can only camouflage against the specific channels you're aware an observer is using. Here's the real through line connecting a 1942 fake suburb built from chicken feathers and rubber tires to a modern low emissivity paint formulated in a physics lab. Camouflage was never really about becoming invisible. It's about controlling exactly what information a specific observer using specific tools is capable of extracting from a scene. Its shape, its shadow, its temperature, its pattern, and above all, whether it changes in ways that draw attention over time. Get all of that right, and a general flying directly overhead, actively looking for a bomber factory, can stare straight down on one and see a quiet Tuesday afternoon in the suburbs instead. Subscribe to Grand Structures. We'll see you in the next breakdown.